She had 30 seconds to get him moving. He wouldn't move. The extraction window was counting down. The harbor route would be gone in 40 minutes. The surveillance team outside had already repositioned once, which meant professionals, which meant direction, which meant someone on the other side of this operation knew exactly where she was. And the man across the table hadn't shifted in 4 minutes, hands folded, spine straight. The patience of someone who had already made his decision long before she walked through the door. "There is one condition," he said. She had not been briefed on a condition. The safe house sat above a dried seafood vendor on a narrow back street in Shamshui-Po. Salt, rain, old wood. The windows papered over, a single overhead bulb, throwing everything in pale yellow. Through the walls came the sounds of a city that never fully quieted motorbikes. A radio bleeding through a partition, rain beginning to tap against tin roofing in a rhythm that was patient and building. She was operating as Catherine Marsh, import consultant. 11 prior extractions across 4 countries. A memory for floor plans that her instructors had once called unsettling. Dr. Chen Weiming was 53. Wire-rimmed glasses, quiet voice. He was, according to 3 separate intelligence assessments, the principal architect of a behavioral prediction system with no confirmed Western equivalent. 9 months of back-channel contact, 4 months of verification. One of the most sensitive defection operations the agency had run in a decade. He was looking at her the way a man looks at someone when he has already decided that what they're about to say, won't change anything. "Tell me the condition," she said. He reached into his jacket. He placed a photograph on the table between them. A child, a girl, 8 years old, dark hair, a grey school uniform with a small red collar, the specific institutional red of state-affiliated educational facilities across China. She was smiling at something outside the frame. The unguarded kind of smile children only produce when they don't know a camera is there. "Her name is May," Chen said. "She is my daughter. The briefing file said you had no family. That is what I allowed them to believe." She kept her expression still. "Where is she, Kiki?" "The research annex, Hubei province." He looked at his hands. "She has not been permitted visitors in 9 months. She knew the name. Barely it appeared, at the outer edge of a surveillance file from a separate operation. State-affiliated, computational research on paper. Security classification, inconsistent with academic work. Why is she there? I designed a pattern recognition model, a predictive architecture. May was solving problems inside that model that my own senior researchers could not solve." A pause. "She was 6 years old. I did not report it. Someone else noticed. She was transferred to King within the week." One word, snagged. "Transferred." She said yes, not admitted. Chen looked at her steadily. "She is being studied." At 8 years old, the distinction has not yet fully mattered to them. Her earpiece clicked. Her handler terse. "Clock's moving. Catherine, what's his status?" "Working on it. The harbor window closes in 40 minutes. If he's not moving in 10, walk away clean." She set the phone face down on the table. She picked up the photograph again, studied it. The red collar. She had seen that collar in a separate briefing file. One she had never connected to this operation until this moment. King's intake process wasn't voluntary. Its staff held military clearances. It had been flagged 18 months ago by an analyst whose report had apparently gone nowhere. "How long have you been planning this meeting?" she asked. Chen reached into his jacket a second time. He produced a folded piece of paper and opened it on the table. A hand-drawn diagram, floor layout, approximate guard rotation notes in the margins, access point markings. He had been carrying it since before she arrived. "You were never planning to leave without her," she said. "No," he said simply. "You came here to find a partner, not to defect." He looked at her directly. "I am not asking you to start a war. I am asking you to help me retrieve one child from a building." The second call didn't come through her handler. It came from a level above him. A voice she recognized from one prior operation measured. Senior, the voice people use when a decision has already been made. "Marsh, the surveillance vehicle on your south end. It's not MSS, private registration." And we traced the holding company. A pause that landed deliberately. Single client history. "The King Annex." She went still. "They're not here for the defection," she said. "They're here to make sure Chen never talks about what his daughter can do. Someone at that facility decided he's an information risk, and they want him contained before he crosses any border." "I have a secondary objective," she said. "There is no secondary objective. The mission is the asset. One asset. You bring him out, or you come out alone." The line went dead. Chen had heard one side of the conversation. He understood all of it. The photograph of May sat between them on the table. "They told you to leave me," he said. It was not an accusation. "Yes, will you?" She looked at the photograph for a long moment. Then she turned to a new page in her notebook. "Walk me through the eastern access," she said. She did not call the operations room again. She wrote while Chen talked in the tight personal shorthand no one else could read, the kind she had used since her first posting. He spoke quietly and completely. Guard schedules, perimeter timing, the name of the administrator who signed the oversight reports, 11 children in the facility, May on the 3rd floor, Eastern Wing. He had assembled this over 14 months, from 3 institutional letters, from fragments, from the specific, furious attention of a parent with no other tools. At the bottom of the diagram, in small, careful writing, he had noted the 1 30-minute window each week when the eastern corridor had reduced coverage. She looked at it for a long moment. "You built this in case no one came," she said. "I built it in case someone did," he said. Loop planted. "What does it take, and what will it cost to go back in?" Her earpiece activated on a channel she had never used during this operation. A 3rd channel, emergency only. A woman's voice, unhurried, somewhere in her 50s. "Agent Marsh, Deputy Director Callahan, I've been briefed on your situation. I want you to know King is not a linguistics program. It hasn't been for 6 years. The child's name has appeared in 4 separate intelligence intercepts. We know who Mei Chen is." A pause. "Someone chose not to include that in your briefing package." She kept walking. Chen was half a step beside her. "Tonight, you use the harbor route. Chen comes out. You do not deviate." The voice was precise. "But when the asset is secure, I want a conversation about a secondary operation, with resources, with coverage, a beat, unofficially. Understood?" "Understood. The surveillance unit on that block will not act against a foreign intelligence officer on Hong Kong soil tonight, but do not give them a reason to change that." The channel closed. They moved through the back stairwell in silence, past the kitchen, into the alley. The rain came down cold and fine, and the harbor lights smeared yellow across the wet cobblestones. She kept their pace ordinary. 2 people caught in the rain. No umbrellas. Umbrellas are memorable. Halfway down the alley, Chen stopped for just a moment. One brief look back at the building behind them. The look a person gives a place they know they won't see again. Then he looked at her. "We have to be faster than they are," he said. "Yes," she said. "We do." They kept walking. On the boat, running dark across the harbor, Chen sat near the stern and watched Hong Kong disappear into the rain. He was leaving everything he could name, and his daughter was still in Hubei. After a long silence he said, "You could have left." "Yes, they told you to." "They did." He held the photograph in both hands without looking at it. "Why didn't you?" he asked. She didn't answer immediately. The lights of Hong Kong were a faint amber blur now, getting smaller at a pace that was steady and final. "Because the mission is never just what's written down," she said. He didn't respond. He didn't need to. In the debrief, with a formal suspension recommendation on the table in front of her, she said 7 words. The parameters were built on incomplete information. She set the document down. "Someone chose what to include in my briefing package and chose what to leave out, and those choices put a child in a facility in Hubei province for 9 additional months. I deviated because the authorized mission was wrong. I would do it again." The room was quiet for a long moment. The suspension recommendation stayed face down on the table. Nobody picked it back up. They found May, 19 days later, 3rd floor, Eastern Wing, exactly where Chen had marked on the diagram. She was sitting alone at a table, working through a sequence of problems on a sheet of paper. She looked up when the door opened. She did not look afraid. She looked like a child who had calculated the odds of this moment 100 times, and had chosen, quietly, to keep believing in it anyway. The strongest leaders are rarely the ones who follow every order they are given. Sometimes, they are the ones who understand, when those orders were wrong, that the real mission was never written down at all.